Tonight, the Qatsi Trilogy, a vision of filmmaker Godfrey Reggio.
Our problem is that with technology, we've developed an infinite tool that works in a very finite world. That's we have a term for that. It's called progress and development. That's our new religion.
This evening, we will meet a New Mexico filmmaker who makes a very different kind of film. His first two motion pictures were neither classic documentaries nor works of pure entertainment. Instead, he likes to make movies, he says, that one can absorb, that one can take in through the pores of their bodies. Movies, in other words, that are an experience. Godfrey Reggio has made two hugely successful movies that combine striking metaphoric photography with the primal music of composer Philip Glass. There are no characters, no storyline, no dialogue. The first film was quite a surprise and received great critical acclaim for its unique style and powerful message. Of this work, Reggio says, "It's a film with no words about the power of one word." That single powerful word is the film's title, Koyaanisqatsi. It's a Hopi Indian word that means life out of balance. Reggio remarks that with that film, he wants to make a movie about the beauty of the beast. A movie that celebrates freeways, 747s, even the bomb. Because the beast, he says, doesn't come as a bum or a bag lady. It comes full of enticements. And he thinks that we've already taken a bite out of it. Koyaanisqatsi is the first of a trilogy planned by Reggio that deals with how humankind has placed its unquestioning, almost religious faith in the power of human technology, replacing the natural world with artifice, Powakatsi is the name of the second film. It too is a Hopi word that means life in transition. In his work, Reggio uses the high gloss of the film medium to, quote, heighten consciousness and imagination, to open our eyes again, to look at what we've stopped seeing. Our salvation, he says, depends on reawakening, on being reminded of the human condition. Without question, Godfrey Reggio is a different kind of filmmaker, motivated by deep sensitivity and sense of purpose. His motion pictures are both works of art and acts of conscience. It seems real clear to me that there's a deep irony in your use of a highly technological medium to reveal the negative impact of technology on human life.
My intention is to teach people in terms of what they already know. All of us are saturated in media world. It's the only thing we know. So I can't, in a miraculous way, communicate my idea to a person, obviously, and I want to provide an experience for the viewer, so I use these tools, and I use them in a way almost like a cultural kamikaze. I don't feel invested in the tool, but I feel like if I'm going to try to communicate to the contradiction of a mass audience, that I have to use those tools. So I know that I'm walking on a very thin line, and I'm gratuitously and freely embracing that contradiction.
The contrast between Hopi and Hollywood is obviously a profound one. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Let me put it this way, it's not only Hopi in Hollywood, it's Hopi in academic, it's Hopi in modernity, it's Hopi in the modern world. The concepts for the films, for the trilogy, have been my own and my associates. The connection to Hopi was one for us of a very important confirmation that I felt very much confirmed in my thought about what I was seeing by the metaphysics, if you want, of Hopi. Let me use an analogy. If an anthropologist were to study the Hopis or to study the Navajos or the Pueblos or Indians in this area or anywhere, they would use their own categories of observation in order to render some judgment about the nature of these indigenous societies. What I did was, in effect, take the Hopi category of looking at us as the alien, the inhabitants of modernity, as it were, and applied their categories, since they were confirming of my own points of view, in terms of time and space. Let's take, for example, in Koyaanisqatsi, we see things in a technological sense, in terms of the camera pixelated or in time-lapse, shot so that the image looks very fast. We're actually shooting very slow, the image looks fast. What that does is give us another view of time, another way to see a concept, perhaps, something that we take for granted. What we're trying to do in Koyaanisqatsi is show that we're living in a world that's engulfed in acceleration. So that's a category of observation that the Hopi can view our culture through. It's not something that would occur to us. We go through a progression of time, past, present, and future, in a very linear way. Everything exists in a moment for Hopi. There's the past, present, and future as an eternal now, another sense of time altogether. I tried to weave that as a concept in the two films I've done so far. So the reason for choosing these people is that they offered us something that perhaps we've not seen because we're too close to.
You know, one of the obvious qualities that are missing in these movies is a heavy moral overtone. And for movies with this kind, with the profound kind of message and the sort of pointedness of your message, is there a heavy moral overtone in the Hopi worldview?
Well, I can't speak for the Hopi, and so I don't know that. I do feel essentially the films I make are moral. I don't feel they're moralistic. I'm not trying to tell someone what to think or how to think or point there. Like if you watch a commercial, your head is almost like being guided by the hand of the producer of the commercial because they want you to see things. I'm trying to leave it as open so a person can view and see for herself what's being offered in the film so that they can judge for themselves. It would be like seeing a painting. If there were 30 people in a gallery and looking at a specific painting, there might be 30 different points of view. If 100 people come to see these films in any given night, there could be 100 different points of view because the viewer is free to perceive for herself or himself the nature of the experience that they're having.
Why Hopi worldview?
Well, see, everything that we call normal, they call abnormal. Everything that we call sane, they call insane. That's how I feel. I believe that we live in a world where the moment of the truth is actually the moment of the false, where we are so close to the ordinariness of daily life that we don't see how crazy life is. In terms of our concept, which is how we live, I think a lot of us feel it. You can see it in the tension, you can see it in the conflict, you can see it in people that need to escape life through drugs or through any other form, maybe work, other activities, but what you can tell instinctually is that something is very imbalanced or stressed. And I think the Hopis and other Indians, not just Hopis, other indigenous people are aware of that. They can see that white people, what they call white people, or people that live in industrial zones, are disconnected from their heart, or disconnected from their head, or living a synthetic life. That's why I chose these prophecies, this inspiration, going to a Hopi source. We don't know their language. It has no baggage for us. I'm in effect trying to create an iconography of 100 minutes of image in order to give you a view of the power of one word.
Everyone has a hard time saying these words and really knowing what they mean. Could you describe them in
Certainly. What I'm embarked on is a task of trilogy in terms of filmmaking. The first film of the trilogy is Koyaanisqatsi. Koyaanisqatsi means essentially life out of balance, life disintegrating, crazy life, life in turmoil, but more principally a way of life that calls for another way of living. It's a view of the industrial zone. It's a view of the northern hemisphere and how we live in a process of density, acceleration, mobility, critical mass out of control. Powakatsi is a film that's shot principally in the southern hemisphere. Powakatsi means an entity, a being that eats, consumes the life forces of other beings in order to enhance its own life. What's clearly involved here is black magic. What's clearly involved here is negative transformation through the process of consumption. So what this film deals with is consuming indigenous cultures, which make up perhaps 65% of the world's population, through the seduction, through the myth, through the life force of the industrial technological world, which Koyaanisqatsi tried to show. Nakoy-Katsi, the third of the trilogy, which is in progress now. Nakoy means war, Katsi means life. It's about life as war, but not war in any way limited to the battlefield. War as a way of life, war as the price we pay for the pursuit of our own technological happiness, war as the price we pay for affluence, war as a sanctioned aggression against the forces of life.
Is there an overarching view that ties all these up?
The motivating concept for the trilogy is the nature of the technological universe or the technological order or the technological milieu in which we live. If I were to say that nuclear war, environmental devastation, the debt crisis, drug abuse, child abuse, the abuse of women by men, et alia, all of these fantastically horrible problems, these problems are surface, from my point of view, compared to what I'm trying to look at in the trilogy. The focus of the trilogy essentially deals with something as awesome and as unprecedented in certainly our history and certainly the history of the globe as the death of nature. What this trilogy is trying to show is that nature itself is dead in terms, in its relation to us as the host of life. Now, When I say that we have environmental devastation, I believe that those things that are destroying the environment can be taken care of by high technology, but it would do nothing to eliminate the death of nature as the host of life and its replacement with the new host of life, which is the technological milieu, the technological order. Now, I realize in saying this to you, to the audience that's watching us tonight, that I might sound like I've taken leave of my senses. I think the concept is so foreign to the way we perceive the world that we have almost no terms in which to grasp this. When I talk about the death of nature and its replacement with the new host of life, that which we live our life on now as the technological milieu, I want to give it some characteristics. It's characterized by being artificial. It's not part of nature per se. It's artifice that we create. Look at Annie Big City as the example. It's characterized by being autonomous in nature, irrespective of our ideas, of our concepts, of our values, and of the workings of the state itself, the nation itself. It has an autonomous nature. It's what Mary Shelley was talking about in her book Frankenstein, not Hollywood's version. In being autonomous, it also acts like nature. It's a closed circuit. It has a complete universe unto itself, and which does not omit of human intervention. So it's a closed system like nature. It replicates nature. It's an artifice of nature. It's also causal, but it's not causal in response to ends. It's the triumph of means over ends. In that sense, it's self-deterministic. It has its own determinism wrapped in. And finally, it's so comprehensive and so total that we have no perspective, usually, from which to judge it. So nothing can be viewed in isolation. We can't take care of the environmental problem and assume that everything is going to be fine, as many environmentalists would think. Or we can't take the population problem, or the problem of adverse relation between the sexes, or drug abuse, or war. All of these things are mutually implicated in the technological milieu that we call life today. This is the crisis.
What do we do?
Well, the first thing is to become aware that we no longer live with nature. We live above nature. Our view of nature is to consume nature, is to eat nature. Nature is raw material. To go back to the Indians have an insight, a wisdom, a metaphysics that is much wiser than ours. They know that the earth itself is a living entity. They know that the earth has a life cycle that is delicate and must be protected. They also know of the danger and the ravaging of the earth against human beings, but they know that there must be some delicate balance, respect between these entities. Our problem is that with technology, we've developed an infinite tool that works in a very finite world. We have a term for that. It's called progress and development. That's our new religion. And it's that we must be aware of, I feel. The second is a process of revisioning. Before there can be activity, there must be a motivating vision. Religion has played that role for human beings. I'm suggesting that the vision that we need for our day is one that is not anthropomorphized, one that doesn't put the human being, man more particularly, as the center of the universe. Our Bible tells us this, our Quran tells us this, our religion tells us this. This is something we have to question. Our faiths unquestioned can become our prisons. We have to, in effect, create a new vision that sees that not only is human being a principal life form upon this host, but the planet itself is a life form, and that all of the species are a life form. In that triadic, in that three-form relationship of respect for life, we can develop a new vision of life. I could go on. We could decentralize the mechanisms of the nation state, but this is a longer conversation.